There you go.
We're good. We're live. Well, happy Saturday morning, Save Jerseyans. We're coming to you again today for day 2 of the New Jersey Republican State Leadership Summit live from the Boardwalk Empire.
Absolutely.
We're in Atlantic City, and we're in a part of the state and a part of the world that's been getting redder.
Absolutely.
There's a red wave that, even before we started talking about it nationally, the red wave started crashing in South Jersey a few years ago, and the tide has not rolled back yet. Gloucester County and Cumberland County, good chance those counties are going to flip this year to Republican control.
Very exciting.
It's very exciting, and our first guest this morning is the man who, if Cumberland County indeed flips, he laid the groundwork, because before the red wave, before Jeff Van Drew even, this guy defied expectations and won an upset victory in 2019 in the 1st Legislative District. There was one goofy poll that had him down 14 points, ended up winning by 7. He is my dear friend of many years, State Senator Mike Testa. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I mean, what an introduction that is. It's hard to follow up, but one thing I will say about the 1st Legislative District, and I'm so happy that the red wave has continued, but I will brag a little bit about Assemblyman Antoine McClellan, Assemblyman Eric Simonson, and myself, and our victory in 2019. How that was really, the tip of the proverbial spear of the red wave happening in the state of New Jersey. And it takes a village. People had to believe, as you know, right? People had to believe in a candidate. You and I have talked about our belief in candidate Chris Christie before he was Governor Chris Christie, and how you have that sort of you fall in love with a candidate, and so many people in the district wanted change, and it was obvious that they wanted change, but they also needed 3 people to believe in, because and that was the first district flipped fully Republican in the state of New Jersey in 29 years. So we've sort of taken that for granted when you have LD2 fully red now, LD3 fully red now, LD8 fully red. But
we have an embarrassment of riches now in South Jersey Republican world.
It's almost getting to be that way. But Matt, one of the things I love about Senator Testa, and right off the bat, he's a very, very bright, shining star in the Republican Party. But he will remind you that he is part of a team. I may have something to do with both of us being Villanova guys. He'll remind you that he's part of a team, and he's a team player too, and that's very important in the legislature, Senator.
it is. The beautiful thing about Legislative District 1 is that myself, Assemblyman Simonson, and Assemblyman McClellan, we're really under one roof. We have 2 district offices, but I've seen it in other districts where the senator will have a different office from the assembly people, or even there'll be 3 different offices. And I just think that brings a disjointed message. And Matt and I have talked about one of the issues in the Republican Party is that everyone seems to be in their own silos. Whether you're in the Senate, you have this silo, you have the Assembly, you're in this silo, the NJGOP is in this silo, county committees are in a different silo. And I've said it before, we need to have a monolithic message as to what a Republican is and why people who aren't Republican should be voting Republican and registering as Republicans. I'm good friends with Bill Stepien, and he and I have talked at length about this. In 2016 at the RNC, it was a book basically about what the Republican platform was almost 90 pages long. The platform was, I think it was 86 pages, if I'm correct. It was definitely almost 90 pages. And, for those who may or may not like him, Jared Kushner said something very bright to Bill Stepien and said, we should be able to identify why we are Republicans on something that is about the size of a library card. So if someone were in the aisle at a grocery store and said, hey, Dan, why are you a Republican? And you could pull it out and just read it to them. And I think that we need to have a much more unified, monolithic message. And I know that some of my colleagues will disagree with me. They constantly talk about targeted messaging. But what that does to me, it fractures our basic principles of what the Republican Party is. that we are for free enterprise, that we're actually for freedoms, that we don't believe in a big government, that we believe in small government, that believes in that stream of commerce that runs our economy, that we want less government involvement in your aspects of your everyday life. And I think that there's some really basic principles that we can all agree on. And certainly there are districts that you have to be a little bit more nuanced in. But if we can't agree on 3 or 4 issues like lower taxes, and we have to do something to stop relying on foreign sources of oil, then we have a real problem identifying ourselves. If we can't identify ourselves, there's no way we're going to be able to take back New Jersey. And you think about it, and I have to give a plug to my dear friend. Here he was, a law school student who decided to start a blog called Save Jersey. And isn't that what this is all about, really? I mean, and I know that I'm going to poke at you a little bit, and we have this almost embarrassment of riches, but we're not in the majority, and we don't have the government.
Yes.
That's right.
Save Jersey is working hard, but New Jersey is not yet saved.
Yeah.
We have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and Save Jersey's more than 10 years on. I mean, I remember, Matt, when he started, it was very, very daring.
I was young, I was happy. It was about 15 pounds ago. I never looked as good as this guy, but I was closer.
Neither one of us ever did.
Yeah, so.
Well, thank you for that. But, flattery will get you everywhere.
Flattery
with me.
will, yes.
Yes. Flattery and pizza.
That's right.
So, you think about this state and what you and I believe in. And look, obviously we have this unified love, all 3 of us, for this state, what it can be, what it should be, and what it isn't. And you look around and, Dan just pointed out something that I think really needs to be hammered into anybody who's wanting to help the Republican Party, whether it's in a municipality, whether it's a county, whether it's a congressional district, a legislative district. You've been doing this for over a decade. And I constantly say this about the success that we had in 2019, that our overnight success was a decade in the making.
Yeah.
Because, I've been county chair since 2014. I was vice chair for 4 or 5 years before that and volunteered for many years. So I understood it. I understood the facets of what goes into an organized campaign. And that, look, we were never going to beat the money coming out of the general majority PAC out of Camden, right? But we could run a grassroots campaign if we do it properly and have enough money. I love Senator Durr, but I don't want people believing you can win elections on that little amount of money. I don't want people to believe that should be the way we go.
You don't want your candidates taking away the wrong message.
Correct. I mean, we need both. You need a ground up and a top down.
I mean, there's something to be said, though, Senator, for not being too slick and for having a strong grassroots and even for running a sort of like guerrilla campaign, okay, that catches the other side totally, off balance.
Well, it's great that you say that. So I have an individual that I'm not going to name on here because he runs my guerrilla campaign, and I say that he has a master's degree in guerrilla political warfare, and I constantly tell him that, and I have him really organizing municipalities throughout the legislative district. And guess what? That's exactly how we've turned some of those municipalities. And, look, I love being everywhere, but you can't be everywhere all at once, and you can't be everywhere all the time. It takes a team. Yeah, am I the county chair? Absolutely. I mean, so does the buck stop with me? Absolutely. But if I don't have enough soldiers to lead, then guess what? We're having a failing army of people. But, Dan, you said it. I mean, you need to have that grassroots campaign. I know when I knocked on certain doors in my first campaign in 2019, they said, you know what? We've never had a Senate candidate knock on our door.
Here you go.
And I know I had those individuals. I had their vote. I had their vote. And then a number of times I will tell you, people would say to me, you're the only other person besides Jeff Van Drew to knock on my door. And it showed me, and at the time, as you know, Congressman Van Drew had not yet fully seen the light and come over to our side. It showed me that, he's sort of the James Brown of politics, that he's the hardest working man. And I mean that, because I went everywhere, and I had people who told me that said, I've been a Republican since the day I registered to vote, and these people were, near my parents' age, but I always vote for Jeff Van Drew because he has always knocked on my door. So I have to give him a plug. I mean, he is someone that we can emulate, and I'm really glad that we don't have to run campaigns against him anymore and that he's on our team and has brought a number of people over with him. Which is
something
great.
that you're having a lot of success with in Cumberland County, and you have to if you want to win in Cumberland County, is winning voters who aren't white. Black and brown voters seem to be opening their hearts to the Republican Party. It's one of the themes of this weekend. There's a very strong presence here of black and brown Republicans in Atlantic City for this summit. And you're talking about voters you encountered who had never been asked to vote for the Republican candidate. Is part of the secret simply asking people for their support? Is that one of the things Republicans have not done up until this point?
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's Tip O'Neill taught us all of it, right? I mean, Tip O'Neill said all politics are local, and I remember the story from his book. It was either his English teacher or a neighbor, I forget which one it was, that, you know, she had said to him, she said, Tip, I didn't vote for you. And he says, what do you mean? We've known each other for so many years. And she said, people like to be asked.
Yeah.
And I will tell you this, that, you know I run a breakfast and you come for the bacon. There's no doubt about it.
Oh,
you know?
the best bacon in there. I don't know what it is.
I think they candy it there sometimes, to be quite honest with you, and it is phenomenal bacon. But, you know, we run a real grassroots breakfast every 2 weeks, and it is kind of pain in the neck being the chairman and a father of 3 children to every other Saturday go to a place where they're not. But that's what it takes. It takes that level of dedication to get people in the room and hear them out. We get to hear their voices. And it's funny, though, you know, obviously I head the breakfast every time, and I've had some great guest speakers. I've had you, I've had Bill Spadia, I've had, you know, Tom Kean Jr., you know, former Chairman Steinhardt, when he was state chairman, would come. And just last week, they said to me, you know, they said, well, Senator, do you have any guest speakers coming? And I said, well, it's just me. Well, there's a lot going on in the state. And they said, you know, it's really hard to attract people to the breakfast when it's just you. And I said, and I found that to be so funny and humbling, and it was great. And I said, well, I am the chairman of the organization and your state senator. I said, you know, most people think that's a cool thing. I said, but, you know.
Well, it is a very interesting point, though, because you're just Mike.
Right.
To them, you're part of the team. You're the quarterback, but you're part of the team.
Very
You're so visible, and
Very
as you say, accessible. It's interesting.
Yeah,
It really is a model for what we need to be doing in other counties.
Oh, absolutely. But Senator, you have also mastered social media. I mean, I think you are a model of communicating on social media and not pontificating on social media, which far too many politicians do, but actually showing your human side, all three-dimensional of yourself through social media. And, you know, that's an art. It's not easy.
I think we could all learn a lot of lessons from, you know, 15 and 16-year-old girls and how they handle their social media, to be honest with you. You know, I mean,
Spoken like a father.
Yeah. I mean, you know, look, and I don't mean to take a dig at any, you know, younger girls, but they're constantly on social media showing people what they're doing, whether they're, you know, having fun, whether it's academic, wherever they are. I think far more people need to understand that we are human beings as politicians, that, you know, and I don't even like that term because I think we've lost that term, you know, sort of like when, you know, people call you a conservative and it has a negative connotation, you know, and it's sad that the left has done that to us, but we've learned that, you know, I like to say I'm a person that's involved in politics, and I'm involved heavily in politics, but I think people want to know that we are human beings, that, you know, Matt didn't sleep very well because his kid was up in the middle of the night. I had that situation myself the other night, you know, and if you post that and say, geez, you know, I need a third cup of coffee to start the day today because this happened, people realize, like, wow, Matt, Mike, Dan go through the regular rigors of a day. And that, you know, I mean.
And if you can appreciate what I'm going through, then I trust that when you're in Trenton or when you're in Washington, D.C., you have what I'm going through in mind as you're proposing bills, passing judgment on legislation. I think the thing that most people in New Jersey know about you is your love of pizza.
Absolutely.
You've connected with so many people through your love. Let's not call it love. It's an obsession. You're obsessed with pizza. It goes deeper.
Well, yes. I mean, I've never had, like, I'll be honest with you, I love fine dining, but if someone really wants to get to know me and hang out, I mean, I don't think there's a better way than 3 or 4 people getting together with hey, look at this, a couple adult beverages of some of our finest craft brews in the state of New Jersey, over a really good New Jersey pizza. You know, it's just.
How many slices would you say that you eat on a weekly basis?
Probably 4.
Okay, so we're eating a lot of pizza, but it's not in incredible volume.
No.
You're having a lot of different types of pizza, but in small
Yes.
amounts.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to eat 3 in one sitting until I went low carb.
Yeah, I eat 2 at a time typically. Look, I mean, I do watch myself. I just happen to, I'm never going to fully deny myself. But you said something really poignant, Matt, about people understanding what you're going through. And I want to bring up a point about the 2017 Kim Guadagno campaign. And she's a very near and dear friend to me, and I think she's an excellent human being. And she was really embarrassed because she had come from the gym and she was shopping, pushing her cart, and one of those trackers was taking pictures of her. And she was really embarrassed about it. And I'm not trying to upset her if she's listening, but she was embarrassed because she said, I just came from the gym. I was kind of sweaty. I had no makeup on. It's 7:30 in the morning. I didn't look my best. And I said, well, you should make that your own mailer.
Yeah.
And she says to me, what are you talking about? You're crazy. I said, you pushing a cart in a supermarket should be the mailer because you're a working mom. You know what the price of a gallon of milk is, a dozen eggs, and a loaf of bread. If you ask that question to Phil Murphy, he'd have no idea. He probably has a personal shopper. I said, and
I'm sure he does.
Right. So, he doesn't know what the inside of a supermarket looks like unless he goes there for a photo op. So I said, I think that you would resonate with a lot of working families, especially women, who probably have a perception of her being, at the time, the lieutenant governor, that she probably sits in some ivory tower somewhere and has, servants or something like that. I mean, and it is kind of bizarre, even from the Facebook comments, even about me, all the money you make as a state senator, I'm saying.
You can't live on that salary.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't get the memo.
Well, why don't you tell people? Tell them exactly what you make as a legislator.
$49,000.
$49,000. Yep.
And they say it's a part-time job, and I can assure you, if you are going to do it right, you have to be a little obsessed. And especially during the COVID-19 era, my office has been inundated with calls about unemployment issues, probably 85 to 90%. And the other calls were about motor vehicle commission issues. People want to register their vehicle, they need license plates, they need to renew their license. And
It's those areas where you interact most as a normal person with the government. That's where I think that Murphy is so out of touch, because he doesn't understand that, it doesn't matter how much money you throw against the wall for fancy programs that sound good to your far left base. If people can't get basic accessibility to their government for things they need, to change a title, to get their kid their driver's license, to renew a driver's license, to get an unemployment check, which, we forget, and it's an obvious point, but, unemployment's something you pay into. That's not a handout.
Exactly.
That's your money that
Right.
you've contributed to the coffers, and when you need it most, they weren't there to see it come back to you. But your point you make about the Guadagno campaign is very well made, because if I had one bit of criticism from that race, it was that I never thought that her story was ever told. She had a fascinating story, right? A working mom, a sheriff. She was truly a trailblazer for her gender in that profession when she was coming up, and
100%.
that's something that would have played
That's right.
so well. I mean, it's water under the bridge now, but going forward, it's something that candidates need to take to heart.
Absolutely. I mean, and think about it. She was, a phenomenal attorney, prosecutor, sheriff, working mom.
Yes.
Just an absolute great human being. And we need to have that humanistic aspect. I mean, and I think that those themes from that campaign that I pointed out are more relevant than ever when prices at the pump are affecting everyone, record high inflation. Now you go to the grocery store, you might not even be able to get chicken. It's bizarre. I mean, we're really living in a world that we did not grow up in. And I think people are absolutely terrified of what this nation can become. And they're very scared. And look, I have some data on that because I'm part of the National Super PAC. I sit on the executive committee of the RSLC. And, I get to look at all of the data and the polling. And I can tell you that people are more frustrated in this country than they've ever been. And they're fearful that we are losing this nation. Those are two factors that we have to play on in each and every single election, whether it's from your school board all the way up. I mean, and to think about, you and I followed this game for a very long time, and Dan, you've been following it as long as I've been alive, I'm assuming, and
then some.
National politics never trickled down into school board elections.
Yeah.
But Biden has thrown red meat to the lions, and all of the, moms and dads, many of which who were proud Obama voters, now when Alex wants to go to her child's school board meeting, she could be labeled a domestic terrorist. I mean, we've really gone insane. I mean,
this is from the
Very
party
scary.
that just gave us a year-long lecture on the sanctity of democracy and how much they believe in it and how important it is. Yet the school board is the most tangible example of citizen participation, let me try that again, that you can find in our country. And as you say, they vilify people that turn out and advocate for their kids. But, I mean, that's right. I mean, I think that's really what this election is about. I don't think I'm reducing it too much here. We've been promised a lot by the left, this utopian, progressive future they wanted, and what does it really translate to? Gas you can't afford. You go to the supermarket, there's empty shelves, but they're going to teach your kindergartner about sex.
And the other
That's
thing
really
is,
what it boils down to,
if you're
isn't it?
serving on the school board, then you're serving the public. The people that are sitting there, that are coming to that meeting, they're paying. They're not paying you because it's a non-paying job, but you answer to them.
Yes.
Okay, you answer to them.
They're your constituents.
So
Yep.
if you're afraid of the very people that you're supposed to serve, if you're afraid of those people, if you're afraid of what they're going to say and how they're going to behave, then don't be on this school board and don't serve, okay? Because you have no business being there if you're afraid of the public.
Dan, to your point, what we've learned from the school boards and anyone in government is they're not used to being questioned or challenged.
There
And
you
they
go.
don't like it. They don't like it so much so that they complained and tried to have parents thrown out of school board meetings. God forbid, the agenda, lasts longer than an hour at the school board meeting. God forbid that a lot of parents show up and question the curriculum. It's amazing to me that people are in these positions, and some of them far too long, as we know, 20 and 30 years.
Absolutely.
And they have their own little fiefdom that they've had for
Yes.
a quarter century. And, Mr. and Mrs. Smith come to the school board meeting and question them on the curriculum. And, God forbid, what do Mr. and Mrs. Smith know? That's exactly their thought process. And they've made it palpable. They've absolutely made it palpable. And then you have the Biden administration calling moms and dads domestic terrorists. I mean, to me, that's trickling down into everything. And then you have, obviously, Phil Murphy with all of the mandates, all of the lockdowns. And, you have teachers unions now saying, we have this deficit. We have a learning deficit. We have a gap now. We have to fill it. Well, they contributed to it. They kept children out of school for nearly 2 years.
It's a man-made disaster.
What
Right.
did they think was going to happen?
Right.
I mean, and I could actually feel myself getting angrier about this because we see so many children who needed to be in school for socialization, education, and something that is really laughable. It's laughable about the left. They always say they care so much about the children. Did they really care about them for over a year? For over a year while they were out of school? And what about children with special needs who were really left behind, who couldn't really learn remotely and have never been able to be placed in that environment? They had much more one-on-one teaching and assistance, and they were stuck looking at a computer screen for 2 years. It's unacceptable.
It's unacceptable, and the science was largely junk. Past week, I saw a couple articles with the media, I think feigning surprise, that, we unmasked the children and there wasn't a spike in cases. What's going on here? Well, you've had people like Mike Tested telling you that was the case for 2 years now. Not because we know everything. I'm not a scientist, you're not a scientist, but we can read.
I'm not a biologist, but I'm pretty sure Alex is a woman.
Where's Charlie? Where's her husband?
Yeah, we think so, definitely.
I mean,
I mean, isn't that crazy though? I mean, that's the point that we're at now. The only silver lining I can find in it is, I think, to a point you made earlier in our conversation, it's waking people up. People that were never previously engaged, or maybe they use that old line that you hear all the time on the trail, oh, there's no difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. Well, now there is. Now there very clearly is. Even if you don't want to dig into the nuances of somebody's tax policy relative to the other candidate's tax policy, these are fundamental things. And we can't forget about what the end result is in terms of what bills are being proposed and which become law.
Right.
We can't even have a conversation in this country unless we can agree to certain terms. This is what we do. We're lawyers. Dan, you worked with lawyers for a long time. You have to agree to certain terms if you're going to have a conversation.
You got to define
1
your
plus
terms.
1 has to equal 2. If we can't agree on that, no common premise. If we can't agree what a woman is.
Yeah. Well, there was a lawyer. I mean, she's a lawyer that presumably is going to serve on the United States Supreme Court. She can't define her terms. Isn't that one of the basic, things? When you study law, you got to define your terms.
It's stunning.
Well, Dan, here's something that's really interesting to me, and maybe I oversimplify things. As Republicans, we're constantly accused of being science deniers.
Right.
And now the radical left is denying the basic building blocks of humanity and DNA. I'm sorry, but I believe in DNA. If you're an XY chromosome, what are you, Matt? Right?
I mean,
If you're an XX chromosome, I know what you are.
I'm laughing because if you had told me even 5 years ago we'd be having to have this conversation, but here we are. And I'm thankful, Mike, that we have you, State Senator, because bringing us full circle here in today's conversation. You were saying some of this stuff a few years ago when a lot of other people either weren't because they didn't think it was important or maybe they were a little timid. Well, now the battle is joined, as they say, and you're fighting it every day in Trenton. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you. And, I say this all the time about elections. They're all about contrast, and you don't beat vanilla with French vanilla. You beat it with chocolate. Guess what? The Democrats are making that contrast easier for us each and every single day, to the point that I'm oversimplifying possibly, that it's really becoming the sane versus the insane at this point. And I mean that. And I mean that clinically. Because if we can't agree on what a biological woman is, then there can't be any conversations. Because we're always accused as Republicans, you really never want to meet in the middle. Michael, you have to learn to compromise. I can't compromise with that.
Yeah.
It's an impossibility. I cannot possibly compromise with someone who will not agree with me that what happened with that University of Pennsylvania swimmer is wholly unfair and flies in the face of the spirit and intent of Title IX. I can't have a conversation. And someone will say to me, and they have, well, don't you think that individual should be able to compete? The answer is yes, somewhere, but not there.
Right.
And even Martina Navratilova, a champion of the LGBTQ movement, has been vilified for her opinions on this very issue. So
you've got Caitlyn Jenner, formerly Bruce Jenner, saying, "Hey, listen, I believe what I believe about transgenderism, but this isn't fair."
That's right.
It's one of those things where only I think a very small group that's very loud, that controls the media, controls social media, that works at places like Facebook and Twitter, they're for this stuff. The rest of us know that we've gone off the rails. But
we have.
State Senator,
always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
It's likewise. It always is a pleasure, and we will be talking to you again soon, of course, whether you like it or not. But we're all going to be following Cumberland County very closely this November. It's one of those places, even if you're not from New Jersey, folks, if on election night you have an opportunity to navigate over to the New Jersey results, see how things are going there. I think it's going to tell you quite a bit about how election night's going to go in all 50 states.
100% in agreement with you, and I can't wait to do this again soon, and we definitely have to get to that famous Cherry Hill Pizzeria backdoor pizza.
Yeah, Dan is annoyed. Present company excluded, but I keep talking about it. And as a Cherry Hill guy, he's like, we got to start keeping this under wraps. We can't tell everybody about it because they fill up. They only do a certain number of pizzas.
That's it. You got to order in advance. The
Yeah,
bad
so-
part about it is, you take the pizza with you. There's no place to eat it. You got to take it home or whatever. There's no dining room or anything like
It's
that.
the most Jersey thing
You
in the
go to-
world,
yeah,
too.
you
You
go
pick
to
it
the
up
back
behind
door.
the store. It's literally a back door.
Yeah.
It looks like something out of the set of a mob movie. It's so much fun. We're going to go.
Definitely. Let's do it soon.
Thank you,
so much.
Senator.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. That's State Senator Mike Testa, everyone, of New Jersey's Fighting First Legislative District.
He's an amazing guy. I
You're a fan.
think that he is one of the most, if not the most, compelling public servants in New Jersey today. I love the passione that he brings to it, you know?
The Passione.
Yeah, passione that he brings to everything. And he,
Well, I mean, and I could say this about Mike. I mean, because I've known him for a number of years
Yeah.
before he ran for the legislature in 2019. I mean, this is what the guy believes. This isn't a shtick that he turned on when he decided to run for elected office.
okay.
So
Yeah.
I mean, this is who he is, and I think that it's the right messenger meeting the right time where people are willing to hear it. That's really what it boils down to. People are ready to hear this message,
I know,
and it's
Jim,
connecting.
Yeah, down here at this conference, everybody wants to get their picture with him. They want to be near him. He's got a magnetism, and anytime we have him on social media, I mean, he pops right off the screen.
He does.
Yeah, a dazzling guy.
Dan, you're making me blush.
Dazzling. Are you dazzled by Tony Perry?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We had the other interview with Tony. We had a great,
We did. We,
Good
we,
exchange.
we had a lot of fun.
yeah.
We had a lot of fun. You were traveling. Usually it's Dan that's traveling.
Yeah, Tony was in one of my favorite places, South Carolina.
I was. The free world.
Oh, nothing like a red state.
A
Right?
free world.
Well, his part of the world is pretty red these days. Mayor Tony Perry, Monmouth County guy. He's the mayor of Middletown, which, I mean, would be significant enough on its own because it's got to be one of the state's more populous Republican
16th
towns.
biggest
Yeah.
in the state, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's right up there with, I guess, probably Egg Harbor Township and Bridgewater in terms of size of municipality under GOP control. It also happens to be the adopted hometown of none other than Philip Dunton Murphy. You are, whether you like it or not, Murphy's mayor.
I am.
Yeah.
I am Phil Murphy's mayor, whether he likes it or not.
Has he ever called you to bitch about trash collection or?
No. But he has not called me about that.
I don't think he handles his own trash.
I mean, I doubt it.
I doubt it.
You
I
don't
doubt
think
it.
he puts out his own trash, do you, Tony?
Have you seen that driveway? I don't even think I would do it if I had that long of a driveway.
No, I've never been to Mordor. What's it like? Is it long? I'm guessing long and.
It's this gorgeous landscape on the Navesink River. He's got his house. He's got a villa. He's got tennis courts. It's Hilton Head on the Navesink River.
Don't insult Hilton that way.
Well, it's one of the things I've been talking with people about at this summit. Though there's so much that's changing in American politics and
Yeah.
New Jersey politics.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's different from certainly when Tony and I first became politically aware to now, right, over the last 10, 20 years, Republicans were the party of the rich,
Yes.
the party of Wall Street, yada, yada, yada. I mean, there was some truth to the proposition that Republicans used to be the party of big business, right? There was a close relationship between the boardroom
yes.
But that has not been true now for quite some time. All of the major corporations, almost without exception,
please.
are woke.
Oh, my God.
And Republicans are now, and in South Jersey and at the Jersey Shore, you really see it. It's the party of small business, the working man and women, the middle class, people who, they're achieving the American dream because they're working for it, but they have to get up every morning and go to work, drive down their driveway that's considerably shorter than Phil Murphy's.
Yep.
and earn a living, not just to take care of their kids and their family, but to pay all these onerous taxes. And I think you see that in Middletown.
100%. And Matt, I couldn't agree more, because you look at the landscape of America, and you're exactly right. You know, back when we were first in it, it was Republicans are for the rich and Democrats are for the middle class and everybody in it. And the change, that political swap, basically. Even though we always knew it to be untrue, the public perception, I don't think, was there.
Right.
And, you know, my job every day, and it should be every Republican that's in this room's job each and every day, is to make it easier, to make the people that they represent's life just a little bit easier. And you know what most of the time that means? Getting government out of their life.
Right. Well, you know what Ronald Reagan said? Those was one of the most terrifying words in the English language. I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
That's right. That's right.
And so that's an interesting question, right? Because what happened? Because Reagan in the 80s said that.
Right.
And it obviously
Right.
resonated because he was elected twice by massive margins.
Yep.
Bill Clinton, early in his first term in the 90s, tried universal health care, got beaten back. Then a Democrat president stands before the Congress and says the era of big government is
It's
over.
over. Right.
Then we go through the years we've gone through with the Democrat Party since, with Barack Obama, now with Joe Biden, trying to hold the government out as the answer to every question. What happened in that intervening period? Why did we walk away from limited government? Is it maybe, and I'm just spitballing here, that times were relatively good?
I think Matt's 100% correct. I mean, things were good, and you know, you look around this room, and to me, you look at the election of Ed the Trucker, right? Senator Durr.
Yeah.
Who is the belle of the ball here, by the way? Everywhere he
Very
goes,
popular guy.
he's down there.
It's
Yeah,
like
everybody
there's
wants to hang out with him.
He's like a deli, because you need to grab a number to talk to him, I feel like, because he's surrounded constantly. So
He brings a lot of grit to the program here. Go ahead.
he does,
Jody.
but you know what? Somebody like that you look at and you listen to their story, and right after he was elected, you had him on your show. I think that the next day, right?
And it was in the first few days after he got elected. The poor guy, and he would tell you this, most average guy you could ever meet, not in
Right.
terms of ability, obviously,
Right,
but
but
in
just
terms
a
of his
regular guy,
background,
yeah.
working hard, drove a truck,
Yeah, truck
furniture
driver.
delivery.
But somebody that the Democrats
And-
used to say was their person, the person that they were fighting
But now
against,
this is
right?
precisely the type of person now that they look their noses down
Yes.
at. This is precisely the type of person that they condescend to. Okay, if they even deign to go so far as to condescend to someone like him.
And they treated him like he was some kind of laboratory experiment.
Right.
I remember
Yeah.
talking to him on the phone, and the
Yes.
media was camped out on his lawn.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because they genuinely just didn't understand.
Yeah.
Well, they sort of look upon these people as apes. These are the people that the Democrat Party forgot. And nobody knows it better than me. I used to be a Democrat. My dad was a janitor. He was a Democrat district leader. And the first Republican he ever voted for was Ronald Reagan.
It's one of those things that, you know, and I've been endorsed by, right, the electrical unions, right, have endorsed me in my reelection. But last year, I almost won 70% of the vote. And
70%.
And
Fantastic.
you know, huge margin. And I only attribute that to one thing, is that I didn't define myself as I'm for this and that, and you know, this is where I can only be. When you hit that pavement, when you get out there and you understand the needs of the people, the same Democrats, or people like you, Dan, are going to come to my side and they're going to vote for me. And they may vote for Democrats on the other side of the ballot, but they're going to come over. And you just have to be willing to sit down, hear what they have to say, and stop being a politician and start being a leader, and start telling people when we can't do things, and just be
Right.
honest with them. Treat them like adults, right? Stop
Tony, I
treating
think
everyone like a child.
I think one of the reasons people are starting to come over in droves this cycle is an issue which, again, because we're talking a lot in this conversation about the past, the present, and the future. Crime.
Yeah.
Something that when I was a kid in the 80s, you heard a lot about. One of my favorite movies was the 1989 Batman. And what was the setting of Batman? It was this gritty, fictionalized New York City,
Dark
Gotham,
world.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
it was
dark.
it was a dark world
Yeah.
that we subsequently had leaders come along like Rudy Giuliani in New York
Right.
City that cleaned up our cities. Interestingly enough, by the way, side note, Gotham City is actually supposed to be located in South Jersey.
Really?
No.
It's supposed to be located in South Jersey. I'm not
didn't know that.
I'm not BSing you. Look this up.
I never knew that.
It's a real thing. I mean, obviously, there's nothing down here to compare it to in size, but it's supposed to be
No.
located down on the bay.
I did not know that.
So,
Interesting.
so go figure. But I mean, you live in your quintessential New Jersey suburb.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
becoming a concern, I think, everywhere.
Well, I think, listen, Middletown, from before I was on the township committee and before I was mayor, we were always rated one of the safest towns, not just in
Yeah.
New Jersey, but in the United States.
Yeah.
And last year we were ranked the 7th safest town in America.
Good.
And that's
Great.
because we have an unbelievable police department. We invest in our police, and we give them the tools and the resources that they need to do their job.
Right.
But you look at some of the things that the attorney general, the acting attorney general, the outgoing attorney generals that are doing under Phil Murphy.
They keep getting worse.
I mean,
He's on his third, and then I keep thinking it's going to get better. Well, I don't
Yeah.
know why I would think it would get
Really, it's a
better.
little scary.
Well,
Yeah.
they put out these directives, right? They put out now you can't do any car chases, right?
Right.
My police cannot go, and if you steal a car, they know these people that are doing this know that they're not going to be chased or
Yeah.
followed. Well, what does that lead to? Higher crime. I was on the phone with a surrounding mayor from Middletown, and he said to me, Mayor, we had somebody walk in to a garage. The key fob was not in the car, right? And that's always been the thing, is you should be leaving your key fobs in the car as it is.
Right.
But this person went into their house and took the key fob.
Oh my goodness.
Everyone was home. And they walked into the car, they got in, and they drove away. And guess what? That police department is unable to do anything at the directives. So who are we trying to help here? Are we trying to help the hardworking New Jerseyan who's going to work, raising a family, contributing to our nonprofits and churches and religious organizations? Or are we trying to help people who are all they do all day is commit
Right.
crimes? They drive these cars up to the ports and they get them on these ships, and they're gone. They're gone. It is so sad to see the state of affairs that Jack hit it on the head during the campaign.
Jack
last year.
Chitterelli.
Jack Chitterelli.
Very sad. It's a sad state of affairs.
Very sad,
I
but he
almost-
kept talking about law and order.
Yeah.
And
I almost wonder, and I mean, it's water under the bridge at this point, and we could talk about the strengths of Jack's campaign. I almost think that if the election had been held in February or March, you would have gotten a different result. I mean, it doesn't work that way. But so many things that Jack warned about just 6
Yeah,
months
time
ago
ran out.
are coming to fruition. It really is true, and
Yeah.
it reminds me almost of, it's a more dramatic example, but Mitt Romney in 2012
Yeah.
warning about Russia,
Yeah.
and Barack Obama
Laughing it off.
yeah.
And say, what did he say? Something like
Get-
the 70s want their foreign
Yeah.
policy back or something?
the
That was-
1980s
The
call.
1980s are calling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they want their foreign policy back.
Talking
Well-
about being smirky. I mean, really.
Well, Mayor, you are doing a bang-up job as always.
Thank you.
And it is always a pleasure to have you. You're a good friend to Save Jersey. And we love what you're doing because it provides an example. We talk a lot about people being
Yeah.
positive examples, but I think in this particular arena it's more true. If you want to see what we believe as Republicans, you don't have to take Matt Rooney's word
Right.
for it, although you certainly should.
Absolutely should.
Absolutely. And he said it, so you can believe it. But you just have to look at places like Middletown. They're doing it right, and they're doing it in difficult conditions because Governor Murphy certainly doesn't make it easy. Easily your least helpful constituent.
It has not been easy, and the one thing that I keep saying to everybody is, listen, we are going to provide the conservative politics and policies that we have promised and ran on. of law and order, of being fiscally responsible, of ensuring that government is providing the services that our residents deserve and expect with the amount of tax dollars that they're paying. And
What a concept.
I call this guy Mayor Tony. I call him the guy next door mayor.
Yeah.
He's the friendly neighbor mayor. Okay.
The friendly neighbor
Yes,
mayor.
yes. I mean, look at him. Just look at him.
Well, he's a nice
He's
guy.
your
Like,
friendly guy next door neighbor.
I'm not that
All
nice,
right?
and I think I'd have trouble showing up at a council meeting and yelling at him.
No, you just can't do it. He's best friend neighbor. Okay, best friend mayor. Okay.
I got an open door policy to anybody that wants to come in and tell me what I'm doing right or what I'm doing wrong, and that's okay. We all have to. We have to
Fantastic.
be uncomfortable sometimes.
Wonderful. He has a wonderful disposition for.
Thank you.
I was going to say for a politician, but he's got a wonderful disposition. Period.
Thank you.
That's true. Don't be a stranger.
All right.
Neighbor mayor.
Yes. Come knock
We're
on
going
my
to work
door
on that.
anytime.
We're going to workshop it.
Workshop that in an
Workshop
article.
that.
Because
see what
I
happens.
like it. The first version was a little wordy, but I think we can do something.
Fly
with
it
this.
by a focus group.
Yeah, Dan's the wordsmith.
Let me know. I'll have Adam Geller do it in a poll or something like that.
That's right. Is Adam here, by the way?
I haven't
Check
seen
that
him.
with
I haven't
Keller.
seen
Is
him.
he here?
I haven't seen him, but
He's usually here.
but maybe I'll have him do it in a poll and see if it works for me on my next campaign.
Yeah.
Mayor Tony Perry, everyone.
Thank you,
One
guys.
of our favorites.
Thank you.
Be well, my friend.
Good
We'll
to
talk
see
to you again
Yes,
soon.
sir. Dan, good to see you, my
Same
friend.
here.
Thank you.
I think if we can, folks, if it's okay with you, of course, Daniel, take a short
Yes,
break. I
we
think I
gotta
need to
take a
refill
break.
my
Yeah.
coffee cup,
Yeah.
and then we'll come back with more.
Okay.
Sound like a plan?
Absolutely.
All right. We'll be back in a little bit, folks. Don't go anywhere. We'll be here into the afternoon, assuming we're still standing. A lot of
Do
talking,
our best.
a lot of conventioneering, but we'll do our best for you. Be back in a bit.